Hello everyone, welcome back. Here's my first video, and I thought it would be appropriate to maybe do a bit of background on being a Jehovah's Witness. So I'll warn you, it might be a long one, but I'm going to try and maybe split it up if it's too long, but here goes. And please remember that this is just purely my experiences that I'm doing this video on. I'm not going to be quoting scriptures or research or anything. It's just purely my own experience, and I hope I don't upset anyone or offend anyone. And if I do, I apologise in advance. But it's, as I say, it's what I've seen things as. So I was born in 1972. I was a born-in witness. For those of you who aren't witnesses or know anything about the religion, that means that I wasn't baptised or anything as a child. I still haven't been baptised. So I left of my own accord when I was 16. My parents were both baptised witnesses. My brother wasn't baptised, but they'd entered the religion about 8 years before I was born. So, yeah, they were taken in by people knocking at the door with the magazines, and my dad liked what he heard them saying on the doorstep. So they did go along to the meetings and they did become witnesses. It was a couple of years later that they apparently both got baptised. Being born in 72, I didn't know then, obviously, but looking back and through research and things that I've done, 1975 was a very big milestone for the Jehovah's Witness religion. They believed that one of their mottos was, stay alive till 75, because they believed that Armageddon, the end of the world and paradise and everything would happen in 75. But of course it didn't, because, here we are in 2020. But before that, it was 1914 or 1916 that they apparently believed that, the world was going to end and things were going to change. But yes, their magazines and everything were all geared towards 75. You had to, just keep going till 75 because everything would be all right in 1975. Which, after speaking to my mum, she has said that, they truly believed that. And she said that it was actually in the 60s that, the late 60s, that they thought Armageddon was going to hit then because there was an extremely bad storm. And they'd just bought a tiny little flat. And apparently there was a very bad storm, and it sounded like, the roof was going to come off this block of flats that they were living in. And Mum says that, looking back, she was really, really frightened, and she really thought that was it, that was Armageddon. So yeah, I obviously can't compare anything before I was about 16, 17 to anything else. All my experience was of being in religion. So forgive me if I might use words and phrases that only Jehovah's Witnesses, or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses rather, would understand. I think the first time I noticed that anything was different about me, or not that I was weird, but just, I think just that I was different, was when I was in primary one. So I would have been about 5. It was just after the Christmas holidays. And I remember the teacher was going round the class, our first day back. We just had the holidays and everyone was excited about all these things that they'd got. I didn't understand at the time what they were all on about because I was the only witness in the whole class. So yeah, she went around the whole class and she asked what Santa had brought us. We had to tell her. And I think I was about the third last child. And I'll never forget the look on her face, because she'd said to us at the beginning, so tell me what Santa brought you, and Santa only visits good children, and if Santa didn't come or you didn't get any presents, then you must have been very naughty all year. So I was dreading my turn coming, because there was bikes and dolls and books and chocolate and all this from all the kids around me. She called to me and she said, "And Sinead, what does Santa bring you?" And I said, "Nothing." "Who's Santa?" So she sort of gave me a half pity look and a half sort of, "Oh, you must have been really bad" type look. And she didn't answer me. She just went on to the little girl next to me. And I was really, really upset. And I remember for the rest of the day, I was really upset. I thought, wow, what did I do? It was so bad. I must have been so, so wicked for this man not to come. And I didn't get any chocolate. I didn't get any toys. I didn't get any books. So I went home and crying. And my mum asked me what was wrong and told her what happened. And that was the first time I found out that, yeah, I was different. And she explained that, the witnesses don't believe in Christmases, birthdays, Easter. Don't believe in a lot, really. So yeah, I was lucky in the fact that my parents' wedding anniversary was on the 16th of December. So they gave up their wedding anniversary and turned it into a family day where we would exchange presents, and, my brother and I would get something that we really, really wanted, and, something big. If it was, expensive, then that was the time of year to sort of, we would ask for it. We'd say, well, can we get it for family day? Not that either of us really asked for anything, to be honest. I think my brother asked for a guitar one year, and I asked for something. Not that we got it. It must have been too expensive. Yeah, so that was my first time really where I realised that I was different, because up until then, all our meetings and things and Bible studies, large Bible studies and things, were held actually in my assembly hall in my primary school, because they didn't have a designated building. So that's where they held all their meetings and things, which were a Thursday night for 2 hours and a Sunday morning another 2 hours, and other occasions and things. If they needed the assembly hall, then they would hire it. So I mean, when I started school at 5, I was quite delighted, because it just felt like I was, going to a meeting, but I was going by myself. Because Mum took me to the school gates and she was crying, I wasn't. And all the children and things in the religion, they all went to my primary school, all the kids about my age. And I happened to be that the janitor for the primary school was also a Jehovah's Witness. And so they lived round the corner in the caretaker's house. So he was an uncle. Which sort of brings me to another point, that for the first maybe 8 years of my life, I thought my mum and dad had like hundreds of brothers and sisters, and because I had all these aunties and uncles, because you had to refer to them as auntie and uncle. So yeah, I thought I had hundreds and hundreds of cousins. I thought I came from some massive family. So yeah, I mean, I knew them all. I think another way we were different was that mum and dad weren't. They were strict, and they had their beliefs, and strong beliefs, but they weren't as strict as a lot of my friends' parents were, as in Christmases and birthdays. My parents taught me that it was polite to explain to my friends that I don't celebrate it, if you still want to give me this card or this present as I'd handed it over, then please understand that, I can't return it for Christmas. I can't return a Christmas present until after Christmas, or, I can't give you a birthday present and things on your birthday because we don't believe in it, don't believe it's right. And my friends then were given the choice whether they wanted to give me cards and presents at Christmas and birthdays. I used to feel very awkward taking Christmas cards and especially Christmas presents. I think more so once I got into secondary school. I didn't have many friends in the religion or out of the religion. Out of the religion was mainly because I was a Jehovah's Witness. So I was sort of some kids looked down on me as, they didn't want to know me because I was weird. I did have a lot of worldly friends. And a couple of them lived very close by to me. I mean, I played with them at weekends in the primary school I went to. There was about 3 or 4 friends, worldly friends that lived nearby. So yeah, weekends I would play with them. Once I hit high school, we lived too far away from a lot of my friends. Witness-wise, I didn't have a big circle of friends. I always felt inadequate with them too. I think it's because their parents, majority of them, their parents were either, dad was either an elder or they were pioneers or auxiliary pioneers, which for non-Jehovah's Witnesses is pioneers and things are those that sort of have to take down their hours. They have to do so many hours in a week and in a month and go around so many doors and recruit X amount of people, which is something that my mum didn't do and my dad didn't do. I did go around the doors with my dad a few times, but I never liked doing it. Even when I was little, I didn't like doing it because the majority of the time it was knocking on doors of people that we knew, and I used to be very embarrassed. And I mean, as a young child, like 5, 6, 7 years old, I felt quite bad, knocking on little Sally Johnson along the road's door that I went to school with. I used to be very embarrassed going to her door on a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock or a Sunday afternoon or a Friday evening. And I think the only days that they didn't go around doors and things were Christmas Day, and that was purely because they felt that worldly people, because they celebrated Christmas, they would all be sitting drunk, so they either wouldn't answer their door or they would get a mouthful of abuse when the door was opened, which of course isn't true. The witnesses didn't like you watching television. Certainly not, holiday related stuff like, they didn't like you watching Christmas films or comedies and things. You had to be very careful what you watched. Again, luckily, my parents were of the view that, what's watching a Christmas film going to do? How's that going to hurt you? But then that's maybe because they weren't in the religion at a very, very young age, and they weren't brought up by witness parents either, and so maybe their views were a little bit slacker, you could say. Whereas a lot of my friends, they were 3rd or 4th or sometimes 5th generation witnesses. And a couple of my friends that I was quite close to, their dads were elders and they were really, I suppose, drawn in. That was the right phrase. they were baptised very, very young. One in particular, she got baptised at like 14 years old. Yeah, 13, 14 years old. So for them to say, "Oh, we wouldn't let anyone under 16 be baptised," is wrong, because they have. And, I could name the person. I vividly remember going to the assembly, which is, a convention where a lot of them get together from all over the particular country, get together and spend a couple of days studying, or, they might have videos showing and plays on the platform, and, it's very much family orientated and family based and Bible based, of course. It's very intense when you go to these assemblies and conventions, because it's from 9 in the morning till 5 at night, sometimes outside. And when I say outside, I mean like in a football stadium, or in our case, our regular one once a year in about July was held in a rugby stadium. So they can be quite cold and windy when you're all out, but then there's thousands and thousands of witnesses all gathering together. And it's not until years later I found out my mum hated going to these things. It just sent the fear of God into her going to these things, because she didn't like crowds, and she was too busy thinking about it's 3 days worth of work she had to give up, and 3 days of jobs that she could have been doing at home, that she was just sitting still listening to different speakers on the platform, a waffling, as she puts it. You can tell her mum wasn't a very strong witness. But yeah, I digress. Yes, we were allowed to watch television. I mean, in those days, there was only 3 channels in it anyway, so you didn't really have much choice. But a lot of my friends that were stricter in the religion wouldn't have dreamt of watching Christmassy type films, and certainly not Disney films and things like that, because that was all wrong. That was all fake. It was wasn't real. You weren't allowed to watch real things. I think they're very much, from personal experience, looking back, you're not encouraged to think for yourself. Everything's laid out for you rule-wise, and even down to the Bible studies and things. You've got to read the articles, you've got to highlight all the answers, and you've got to study constantly for these 3 meetings a week, which, as I say, 2 you would have in the Kingdom Hall. We eventually got one. For those meetings on a Sunday and a Thursday, you'd be encouraged to study all week for those meetings. And once a week they would have a Bible study in one of the brothers' homes, where a set amount of people would meet up. Maybe about 20 or 30 people would meet up in certain houses and have an hour's long Bible study, which is basically somebody reading the Bible or reading the scriptures and things that the organisation itself, head office, had said that they had to read and discuss. And it wasn't really a discussion, but that's the way they worded it. It was discussion. But yeah, again, it was something else you had to study for. You knew what the topic was going to be. And those of them that were zealous enough in it did it, but I didn't enjoy doing it. It sounds really, really bad, actually, but I mean, it's the truth. Although they say that their religion is the truth. My mum wasn't very strong in it. I seem to remember an awful lot of headaches. She suffered from migraines anyway, and she did work very early in the mornings. She had about 3 different cleaning jobs. She would start off at 6:30 in the morning in a very popular, expensive supermarket, clothes type shop. So So yeah, she cleaned there from 6:30 till 9:30 in the morning, and then she came home for a couple of hours, and then she went out and she did somewhere else. I think it was a doctor's surgery or a bank or somewhere that she did. And then most evenings she was out again. Another office or somewhere like that she would clean in the evenings somewhere. I remember being extremely delighted when she started a job as a cleaner in my primary school that I went to. I think I was about 5 or 6. I was thrilled to bits because as I was coming out of school, she used to be cleaning the nursery, which were huts at the bottom of the playing field in the primary school grounds. So yeah, I used to pop down there and see her and see if I get some money for the shop for the way home, which, she'd always give me 30 pence or 40 pence to get a mixture on the way home, which was pretty good in those days because you used to get a packet of crisps for like 5p and you used to get half-penny sweeties, so you got quite a bit. Yeah, it must have been such a rush for her coming home from her work at 5:30 at night, and then having to get dinner ready for everybody and get ready then to go out to a meeting that started at 7 or 7:30 and didn't finish until about 9:30. And then by the time you got out after talking to everybody and socialising, you weren't getting home till 10:30 at night, if not later, which was a bit of a nuisance as I got older, especially when I hit high school and doing exams and things. That was that was the sort of beginning of it, really. It's my thoughts anyway on the early-ish years. I think in another video I'll go into a bit more depth about how I feel it's changed me as a person, and I was considering going back, but I have my reasons for that as well. But for now, yeah, I think I'll leave it there because it's just to give you a bit of history on where I was back then. I mean, I left when I was 16. I couldn't wait to leave, and I abided by my father's wishes, and I left. Maybe left a little bit earlier than 16, actually, but yeah. So yes, that was part 1. If you enjoyed what you heard or anything rang a bell with you, yeah, tune in for part 2. Okay, bye for now.